Why, hello, everybody. This is Eric Vierthaler of Vierthaler Studios, back for the next episode of Sit Down by the Fire. I'm here with my next special guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. I'm BJ Lange. I'm an actor, comedian, TV host, teacher, and all-around good guy. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I now live in Hollywood, California. Thanks for having me, Eric.
Yeah, certainly. Of course, I definitely, really, truly appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here.
Absolutely. I mean, where else would I be? I mean, hanging out by this fire. It's nice and cozy, and I got my coffee already, so this is nice.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it certainly helps to keep us all nice and cozy, huh?
That's very true.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, it is called Sit Down by the Fire after all. So.
That's true.
So I guess my first question is what exactly started your whole journey about where you're at now?
Well, I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, as I mentioned earlier, and my family are amazing people. My dad was a big goofball, kind of the ham, so I took his personality and multiplied it. I think that's really what kind of led me into my acting path. In middle school and high school, I did a lot of theater, and then in college, I studied acting. And then I started going through my improv life, as I would call it now, and ended up graduating Improv Olympic, Upright Citizens Brigade, IO, Second City, UCB. I studied at all the big improv places, and I still teach at the Second City. So following through the Hollywood acting life is my journey. And I've been now out in LA for 14 years, pursuing professionally as a union actor. The hope and dream of being more consistently working. So I bounce around before a few different things, but in general, that's kind of the overview.
Awesome. And yeah, and a lot of what you said resonates with me, about being the goofball, because honestly, that definitely was me throughout my entire life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely was the one who would make all my classmates laugh. And sometimes I would get in trouble, sometimes I wouldn't. And, knowing your background, I honestly wouldn't be surprised, like, if you were that way too. And yeah, and maybe you did get in trouble for it at school, maybe.
There were a few times where I was definitely called out by teachers for being, I was never really disruptive. It was more I was trying to make people laugh and things like that. I do recall specifically, I had a math teacher who did not find anything humorous and made it a point to say, to bring me out into the hallway and say, you're never going to, you're not going to be a comedian. You're not going to follow an entertainment, and, just like kept berating me. And I still remember that to today. So, hey, be careful what you tell those kids, man. They might hold it against you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I am so sorry to hear about that. But hey, I mean, to be fair, probably a lot of the big time comedians like Jack Black, Jim Carrey, Will Ferrell, Adam Sandler, I can
Mhm.
imagine that they all were told the exact same thing.
Absolutely. But I suppose I showed him later that year when I got elected as or I suppose voted in as the class clown for my high school. So,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so there's that saying that what goes around comes around, right?
it's true. It's very true. Yeah.
So yeah, and so did you ever have a comedian like who I guess really influenced your path?
Yeah, and I kind of alluded to it earlier in that my dad was kind of the ham. Like, he was the life of the party. He was always the guy with the joke at the ready and enjoyed being kind of a, really out there, energetic guy. So I really followed in his footsteps in that regard. But then when I started pursuing theater, and then specifically honing into improvisational theater and improv comedy, that kind of took a different direction, so that I can follow through professionally. People who have inspired me, I'm a big fan of Jim Carrey, obviously sketch comedy. I grew up watching In Living Color. God, I mean, there's so many in the stand-up world. I'm a big Chappelle fan, obviously more sketch comedy there too, but even in his traditional stand-up, and Chris Rock.
Uh-huh.
So there, I would sit here forever if we went down the thing of like inspiration on the comedy world. But for me, comedy can be broken down into so many different avenues, whether you're asking stand up, improv, sketch comedy, even different genres of stand up comedy, the different styles. And yeah. And Eric, let me know if my landscaping is too annoying, because my landscapers are definitely here. Not mine, but my landlord's. Let's be clear here. I'm a broke actor, but my landlord owns a house and she likes to keep it up to date. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, heck, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, like
Hey,
apartment, right?
that's true. Living in the Hollywood. Hey, I'll tell. Here's my clue to know if it's starting to get too loud. If my cat right here, if he wakes up, then I know it will be too loud. But as of right now, he's not woken up, so I think we're okay. That's like my little barometer.
Yeah, yeah. And so then in that case, I guess that you can say for now it's rather perfect.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Yeah, yeah. You have got to be kidding me.
Exactly. I love the cat puns.
Oh, certainly, yeah. But yeah, and so out of all forms of comedy, like physical comedy, pun comedy, or just like improv, or just all forms of comedy, what would you say is the comedy that resonates the most to you?
I think where I'm at right now in my career, and because the bulk of my work over probably the last 20 years has been a lot of improv comedy. Improv is my heart, but I look forward to, and I dabbled in, as we all do at the Second City, when you go through their conservatory program, into sketch writing, and I have with other friends like written some sketches, but I really want to go down that path. And I think even writing shorts, and just even writing sitcoms, things like that, is starting to call to me a little bit more, to follow that passion, both in terms of being a producer, to be able to produce my own content, and to be able to explore other things that I haven't done in the realm of comedy, playing characters that I haven't played before. And I feel like you have a little bit more control, of what's happening in your career when you're self-producing stuff. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that another thing that I do almost on the daily, this is like part of my regular routine, is to watch late night TV show monologues, because I believe in political and social satire. Obviously, I'm a Second City guy, so that totally tracks. And I prefer to get my news that way, through the lens of comedy and the ridiculousness. So even going down that path and writing, for late night monologues and joke writing like that, I think that serves its way as well. And I should also mention that I'm slowly starting to go into the path of stand-up again. It's been a long time since I've actually done a stand-up set, so I'm getting back into that right now. So
awesome. Well, I certainly do wish you the best of luck on all of that.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it.
Yeah, certainly. And yeah, and there's that saying, like, that comedy really is one of the best medicines out there, and it's one of the best ways to address things, considering that it can take pressure off of people, and especially for like some heavy topics out there. Like oftentimes, like oftentimes that we think that we have to like do all these mental gymnastics and and make it so complicated, like to try to talk about these issues. But really, honestly, comedy like really is one of the best ways to go about it.
I can't agree with you more. I mean, I just think it's the best way to be able to get, like you mentioned, hard topics out there, break the awkward silence. I'm a military veteran, and I could recall many times as a medic in the military using an awkward joke or like a silly moment to be able to break the ice or the tension of some things that were happening. And I think you might remember, because for those that don't know, Eric and I had connected before, But
Yeah.
when we had talked before, that I have a contract with the Air Force where I teach wounded, ill, and injured service members and their caregivers how to use improv comedy as a resiliency tool and a way to be able to create life skills or strengthen them, I should say, through improv. So that's another avenue in a way that we create, a way to kind of come out of our shell a little bit, get comfortable with the uncomfortable, listening, problem solving, thinking outside the box, and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable through improv, because these wounded warriors and their families have dealt with such significant things, whether that be a physical, visual, or invisible wound. So, I find it very humbling to be able to use my skill set to help these people. And it's all through the lens of comedy and certainly theater as well for them to grow.
And I mean, ultimately, it's a very humbling experience knowing that you are leaving behind just such a positive and impactful, like like impact on like the entire world.
I hope so. Let's hope, man. We'll see. We'll see in 50 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Certainly,
The,
yeah. And
maybe there will be a BJ Lange improv comedy performing arts center in every city. Let's find out.
oh yeah, I guess that there's only I guess that there's only one way to find out, right?
That's true. It's true.
Yeah. Just gotta take it one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like matter of fact, now that you mentioned that and theater,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unfortunately, James Earl Jones recently passed away, which is a real
Yeah.
shame. But what I saw is that there was a theater, I believe in New York, that recently changed its name, like to be named after James Earl Jones.
Really?
So yeah, and so I think that that's pretty awesome.
I wonder if they'll open a small theater next to it, and then the little theater can look up at the big theater, and the big theater will look down at the small theater and be like, "I am your father."
That would be awesome.
Every like hour on the hour instead of like church bells. That's what it is.
Yeah, and also what would be funny, like if they even added like a few nods to like the Lion King as well.
Totally. Yeah. Mufasa. Yeah.
Simba. No wait,
Mhm. Yeah.
theater. You must take your place in the theater of life.
Have you ever watched the side by side of Denzel doing Fences and James Earl Jones doing Fences?
I don't believe I have not.
Oh, oh my God. Can I don't know, and you might have to edit this out, but do you know on StreamYard, are you able to share screen or no? I've never done it on StreamYard.
Uh, I can, but it's just I just don't want to risk getting like copyright.
Well, I think if you do a YouTube and you throw the credit and you show just a clip of the side by side, I just think you should watch it. All right. Well, here, I'll pick you back up since I know you don't want to do it. Here, I'll give you a pickup. Well, when you have time, Eric, check out that side by side. And I want to hear your thoughts on that. So I look forward to hearing your feedback. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's both of them doing it. Same dialogue on Broadway. However, both of them are just so talented. And it's like, people are like, which one's better? And I can't pick. I literally cannot pick.
Oh wow, and I mean that's definitely saying a lot. I mean, considering that, yeah, both of them are very, very talented actors. But yeah, definitely after this, I will certainly will
Sure.
have to check that out. But yeah, I mean, it definitely has my curiosity. And one of the things that I love about James Earl Jones that was so inspirational about him is the fact that he actually had a speech impediment. And then what's just so interesting is that that's what he became famous for, is his voice.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting?
It is, yeah. And according to my research, when they're casting the Lion King, James
Mm-hmm.
Earl Jones was not the first choice to be Mufasa. The original choice was Sean Connery.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Connery.
Simba, you must take your place in the great circle of life.
Wow. I mean, it's same with Joe Biden. I mean, look, now, he had a speech impediment. Now he's president. Like,
Mm-hmm.
see, you never know.
Yeah, and a matter of fact, I believe that even Sam Neill has the same thing.
Mhm,
So
mhm, mhm.
so
Totally.
yeah, and yeah, and I mean, you definitely got to admit that it's very inspirational. But yeah, I mean, nothing against Sean Connery. He is definitely a very, very good actor. But as
Mhm.
Asa, I think James Earl Jones really was the perfect choice. It's because his voice is just so dominant, and it really was perfect, like for a king of the
Totally.
Empire Pride. So
Totally. Hey, this is a perfect opportunity, by the way. So if you're watching, this podcast, if you're checking out this episode, and you're thinking, I can't get into entertainment, or I don't know what that's going to be like because I'm dealing with whatever that is, whether you have a disability in whatever way. Check out the Disability Film Challenge. I think you'll really enjoy it and put together a team and uh, put in a film for the festival each year. It's absolutely fantastic. DisabilityFilmChallenge.com. It's part of the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge. My friend Nick Novicki, a fellow comedian, he is the founder of it, and that you could do it all around, the globe, and it's awesome. So and it brings together the disability world. So I'm happy to go down that path and talk about the things that I deal with. But just that, so folks know, I'm a disabled vet. I have cognitive issues, so it's amazing to be able to come together with people that understand and still be creative and put people up to be able to create awesome art.
yeah, and that's one of the sad things is that unfortunately there will be people who will try to discourage you from
Yeah, sure.
that life that you want in your dreams over a disability. While I mean, a disability should not be the reason like for you to pursue your dreams. And I mean, Albert Einstein had autism, and even Jim Carrey, who he mentioned, from what I
Mhm.
heard, he has ADHD,
Sure.
and so yeah, and I mean, a disability like just shouldn't get in the way of any of that. And it's definitely good to hear about that disability film challenge.
Yeah.
So I,
Here, you know
sorry.
what? I'm sorry, Eric. Now that you got me going down this, see, that's the problem, Eric. You loosened up the jar, and now it's going to be hard to put the lid back on. But Lights Camera Access is a great organization that also helps to get folks with disabilities in front of and behind the camera in the entertainment industry. And as a caveat to that, if you're a veteran like myself, a military vet, then Veterans in Media and Entertainment is for you. And that's not necessarily on the disability side, but just to get vets in front of and behind the camera. We are the largest group of vets in front of and behind the camera, vmeconnect.org. And the other one was Lights Camera Access.
Okay, cool. Well, I am. Oh, well, cool. I am definitely really glad to hear about all that. Considering that I myself also have a disability, and
Mhm.
so it's definitely good to know about all that. But yeah, I I am 100% sure it's in LA. But do you also know if it's in Atlanta, Georgia, or Texas, or in any other states too?
Yeah, Lights Camera Access is all around the U.S. They have a lot of virtual things. As far as VME for the vets, they have an Atlanta chapter as well. So there are different chapters for that. The Disability Film Challenge gets entrants from all across the country as well. So if you put a team together, you are able to. And by the way, the first 2 years, not the first 2 years, but the first 2 years I participated, that was during the pandemic. So we were all scattered across the country with our team. I think we had like a team of 9 people that were helping to do it. One guy was our producer that was in this city, and the other guy was an actor in this city. And, so we all did it virtually. So yes, to answer your question, there are ways to still be able to do that and get connected with your tribe. So find the organization that connects with you. If you have any questions, if you're checking this out and you're like, I want to get involved in that, hit me up, man. Shoot me a message. I'm accessible on the social media. It might take me a while to reply, but I'll
Right, of
get to
course.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, I get it. You know, you're busy and all that. But hey, I mean, there's also that saying that it's always better late than never, right?
That's true. That's very true. How's life? By the way, let me ask you a question,
Okay.
Eric. How is life up in what? You're in Montana, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful up there. Big fan. How's the industry for you? Like, where are you right now in your path?
Well, yeah. I definitely will give you credit. You may not be the first person to ask me a question, but you are the first one to ever ask me that.
Okay.
So yeah, and so yeah, I mean, I definitely, but yeah, definitely huge kudos to you. But yeah, it started in 2022
Hmm.
when I met a friend of mine who worked on Jurassic World, and when I met her, I had no idea that she did, and then she revealed to me later on that she did. At first, I thought that she was just pulling a prank on me, and then later on, she proved to me that she wasn't because she showed me a picture of her on set, like with Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard. I was like, okay, so you weren't pulling my leg. And so she originally I was going to pursue paleontology, but I wasn't doing that very well in college about that. I'm not sure if you know what paleontology is.
Totally. You could play a paleontologist in Jurassic Park. You could be
Yeah,
the
yeah,
actor who plays. So,
yeah, yeah,
way to tie it together.
all the dinosaurs fear the T-Rex.
That's right.
So yeah, so anyways, she was honest and it caught me off guard. She was like, Eric, you'd be a lot better at filmmaking than you would be at paleontology. And that caught me off guard. And I had to think about what she said. And funny how we mentioned Jim Carrey, because honestly, he's my favorite actor, he's my favorite comedian, and he's one of my idols.
Hmm.
And it was my lifelong dream to contact him. Well, she happened to have met him at Museum of the Rockies down in Bozeman. And yeah, and then she threw me a bone, and then she got Jim Carrey to send me a signed picture,
Wow.
which I have right there.
Look at that.
Oh man, I was beyond happy. Like that right there made my entire life. And then, that then made me more confident to, you know, pursue it. And so I did. And I
And what's the dream, Eric? Like what's the pinnacle for you?
so yeah, acting and since I was the class clown too, and honestly, it definitely was Jim Carrey who was the one who inspired me to do all that. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I definitely would love to do comedy. I would love to do it acting and just even behind the scenes things too, like
Yeah.
being a camera operator, boom mic guy, just anything that involves with film.
I love that. Well, here, Eric, here's why I asked you that question, because I know a lot of people are gonna see this that are perhaps in a place that's not a big city or that might not have the big comedy training institutions or that don't have even a community theater outlet for those that want to go on the performance track. So I want to remind people that there are ways that you could still at least get your feet wet and start to go down the path of studying with someone. Let's just go for performance for a second. Like if you're trying to get into acting, and I'm assuming if you're watching this specifically this episode, obviously I'm more comedy focused. That is not my only thing, but like that's
Mhm,
just what I
yeah,
do a lot of. That's where my heart sings. I teach at the Second City. I'm a Second City graduate of their conservatory. I currently teach at the Second City, which is the birthplace of modern day improv. It's one of the most well-known comedy training institutions on the planet since 1959. So if you could study online at Second City, there are other places that teach online. And as far as getting up to kind of get involved, I just want to remind people that like there's probably an improv troupe near you. There
yeah.
might be a comedy sports near you that you could take classes at, which is a family friendly, competitive, short form improv comedy franchise across the United States. There might be community theaters near you. There might be a film school near you, and the students need actors. So both the community college or university near you. So figure out where those are and check it out. Side note for you, Eric, how far are you from Bozeman?
I'm about 2 hours away. And it's
Wow.
funny because I was about to say, where I'm at now. So yeah, and
Mhm.
so after my encounter with my friend from Jurassic World, I thought, hey, take that chance. And I made a lot of calls to people in, like in the industry of film just to see who would be willing to give me a chance. A lot of people were telling me no. And then, on Valentine's Day, yeah, do you know who Kane Hodder is?
Not by name. Maybe if I saw a picture or saw the
Oh yeah,
connection.
Kane Hodder, he is best known for playing Jason in 4 of the Friday the 13th films.
Wow.
So yeah, so I called his agent, Judy Fox. I don't know if you know who Judy Fox is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so yeah, I called Judy, and on Valentine's Day in 2023, she finally was the one who said yes to me. And then Judy then gave me access to be a member of the Screen Actors Guild.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was just about to get into SAG, but then all that chaos going on in Hollywood came up, and I was forced to put that on hold. And so yeah, I was in a commercial. I was in a music.
Was it? I'm curious, Eric. Was it a union commercial? What was the?
I don't think it was union.
Okay.
Concerned that I am not yet a union actor, so probably not.
Are you eligible currently?
I am trying to figure all of that
Okay.
out, and yeah, and I mean, I certainly hope so.
Sure. You can check on the website, by the way. If you go to the sagafter.org, you can put in your social security number. It will tell you if you're eligible, if you worked perhaps on a project or had enough vouchers to join, whether you're a must join or if you're eligible. It'll tell you. But all in due time, sir. You're on the right path. That makes me so happy, Eric, to see that you're going down it. So then what happened? So she got you in the commercial, and then what?
Yeah, I was in the commercial, and then I also saw that there was but yeah, and then I saw that there was an ad to be in a country music video, which is hilarious considering that when I was younger, I hated country music with a burning passion. And then all these years later, the tables turn and I'm in a country music video. And at first I was like,
do you like country music now, Eric?
Yes, I do. Ironically enough.
Me too. Yeah. Me too.
And so anyways,
did they shoot it up there? Did they shoot it in Montana?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
Oh yeah, and at first I thought it was just for a local band, and I was like, well, I don't know how many people will see this video, but I was like, hey, take this opportunity, see where it takes me. Originally, I was just going to be an extra, but I was at the right place at just the right time, and then the director spotted me, and he offered me a bigger role. I was like, well, of course. And he told me I'm going to have a beer bottle smashed on my head, and I'm going to have a full-on fist fight scene. I'm like, bring on the filthy.
Yeah.
And
did you have a stunt coordinator? Like, did you guys? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and then I found out that I was wrong. It's not for a local band. It's for an up-and-coming country music artist named Lily Rose. And on her Instagram, she has 1 million followers. I'm like, oh my gosh, people are going to see this. And I have a very noticeable, prominent role.
Is it up right now? Can we go watch it?
Yeah.
Wow, cool. Okay, you'll definitely have to hook me up and let me see that. That's cool. See, by the way, that goes back to what I was saying earlier, Eric, that music videos, like that's something that a lot of people don't think about. There's industrial films, corporate training videos, I mean, these are all different ways of film and TV.
Certainly, yeah. And and a lot of times people imagine like that, oh, it's only feature-length films. Well, yeah, feature-length films definitely are an aspect to it, but it's so much more broad than just that.
Totally. I mean, I'm a guy that started in middle school and high school theater, to doing dinner theater, to emceeing live events, to hosting television shows, to doing your occasional short film, to feature films, to sitcoms. I currently play on General Hospital as a recurring paramedic. So on America's longest running soap opera. So, it's like there's so many different things. And sketch comedy is another one. So many people shoot sketches both on social media, on TikTok and all that. So which also ties into what I was saying earlier about creating your own path and self-producing, Yeah.
Oh yeah, certainly so. And I mean, considering that my first movies that really got my foot out there actually were movies that I made by movies I made by myself and some like and some friends of mine like who live in Helena.
Sure.
Shout out to the 406 boys, by the way. If you're not subscribed to them, definitely go check them out. They have been great. And yeah, and then afterwards, after I did that music video and that commercial, I was the lead in a horror movie by the 406 boys. Definitely go check out Viewer Discretion is Advised. And then
Mm.
on Monday, I was in my second horror movie, and I'm like, hey, if it turns out that I'm going to be the new king of horror, well, and then that is a fate that I will fully embrace.
Wow. Awesome. Eric, here's a challenging question for you to wrap up
Okay.
this part, because I want to see where you're at in your journey and all that. Do you think you're going to end up moving? Like, do you feel
Yeah.
inspired to move to a different place?
Funny you say that, because honestly, one of the things that's happening to the Montana film market, uh, they've been trying to they've been trying to bring more film productions to Montana. So what they did is that they started the Montana Media Coalition, trying to argue that it's good for the economy and
Mhm.
whatnot. So they've been trying to get enough members. We're only at like 90 members when we need 300 by January. At this
Mhm.
point, I don't think we're going to reach that goal. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm
Sure.
just being honest.
Yeah.
So with that in mind and some other stuff going on in my life, I do think it is best that I do move.
Mhm.
And honestly, Los Angeles is one of the places that I had in mind. I also thought about Atlanta, Georgia. I thought about Texas. I even thought about Arizona, but it seems to me that Texas, Georgia, and California would have more options
Sure.
as far as film goes. So yeah, and so yeah, it's rather ironic that you mentioned that, because honestly, moving definitely has been on. But yeah, and I mean, it's definitely been on my radar, and so
Yeah. I think everybody at some point, if you're going to go in this industry, even now with technology the way it is, people are still asking themselves, should I move? I think before it was a little bit more of a definitive answer, to say yes. Certainly, like when I moved, whether that was New York or LA. But I think it's becoming rounded out a little bit more, that definitive answer, because of technology the way it is. Because as an actor, the majority of my auditions now are self-tape, where I shoot them myself, or their productions are being scattered outside of LA. So do I really need to be here? However, I think in the greater sense, certainly depending on where you are in your career, coming here or going to New York or going to Atlanta, or maybe you go up to Canada, because they do so much shooting up in Vancouver.
yep.
That or if you're going on the theater route, maybe you move to Chicago. That's a possibility. It's becoming rounded out a little bit more. I think because of technology and making it a little bit more accessible, so it's not as definitive to say I absolutely have to move. But like I said, opening up to a group, finding your tribe here, laying some good foundations, maybe going to a school here, whether that's a junior college or New York Film Academy or LA Film School or USC or UCLA, doing the extension program. Maybe you don't want to get a degree, but you just want to go study screenwriting or
Yep.
acting for film and do the nighttime extension program. There's so many different avenues, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, certainly so. And it's also definitely good to know about the resources that you mentioned. And yeah, and I definitely really truly appreciate that, because
Hmm.
that's something that I've tried to navigate. Like with trying to figure out where I'm gonna go. Trying to figure out, okay, what will be my resources.
Sure.
For me, to pursue what I want. And yeah, man, I definitely really greatly do appreciate that.
For sure, man. Well, I think a lot of people are going to be like, "What should I do?" And however we can help them. That's I think it's important.
Certainly, yeah. And I've also even heard of people like who, try to navigate the high costs in LA. I have heard of people like who will just live close to LA, like in Pasadena
Mhm.
or Shelby Oaks. I have heard, people going there too. And yeah, and I mean ultimately they should do what works best for them.
Absolutely. I mean, it is expensive here. I mean, New York and LA are, and San Francisco are the most expensive places to live. So I think they're neck and neck. I don't think there's a matter of like one's more expensive than the other now. So I totally get that. That's why the majority of artists out here, no matter you're in front of or behind the camera or on stage or off stage, as crew or whatever, why we have 7 part-time jobs. Like I literally have 5 or 6 different side gigs that I have in between my hustle to make things work. But like that's the necessary evil. Is it challenging out here? 100%. That's why before a lot of times students will ask, hey, like I want to come out there. Give me some advice to get ready. And I always say, do you have a job that's transferable that you could do out here? Do you have a skill that you could transfer out here, whether that's bartending or serving or whatever, to be able to make, to have something in the middle to make things work? And do you have at least $15,000 saved up? Because remember, your first and last month's rent plus a security deposit, on your apartment, it's going to be expensive. Do you have a car, right? Especially in LA, it's more of a car city. So yeah, just kind of having those ducks in a row. Are you ready to move as far as for performers are concerned? Is your resume and your demo reel in a position where you're ready to compete with local talent here? Or should you stay in your smaller market, build that up a little bit, and then move, which also ties in with like joining the union. Are you ready to join the union to where you cannot do non-union work anymore? Is your resume and your reel up to par with someone who is a union member? Because if not, continue to work those non-union jobs, build up your resume and your reel, and then join when you're ready.
Yeah. Certainly. So like I've heard stories about people like who will instantly want to jump right into SAG.
You shoot yourself in the foot, in my opinion.
Yeah, which I can imagine so, because I mean, even a lot of SAG actors actually did start off doing non-union productions, and
Everybody does. Everybody, literally everybody, unless you were a baby and you were cast in a film and you became a union actor. Everybody starts non-union.
yeah, and I mean everybody has to start somewhere, and then from my understanding, once you join SAG, maybe there are a few loopholes here and there, maybe, but for the most part, you can only do SAG productions.
Correct. So, and let me, before I know someone like sends hate mail or something like that, the large majority of people start non-union. Yes, you can be 15 years old and someone cast you in something and then Taft-Hartley you, and then you join the union and whatever, and you never did anything before that. Yes, I understand that's a possibility, but the large majority of people start non-union. And you are correct, Eric. Once you join the union, you can't work non-union jobs. To be clear, these are things that are under SAG-AFTRA jurisdiction. So what do I mean by that? Film, TV, commercials, things that are broadcast, being a social media influencer. If you're a union member, there's a union contract for that within certain parameters that are covered under that jurisdiction. So you can't do non-union stuff. Now, I am an Actors Equity member, which is the stage actors union for stage actors and stage managers. So I cannot do non-union theater anymore. So, that whole umbrella is why I was saying, you'll shoot yourself in the foot because, and I know people will do it. They will work what we say off of the card. But the whole reason why we have global rule 1 in SAG-AFTRA is that we will stand in solidarity because it's stronger and our members are more protected. And, it helps raise the bar. and proves that you are a professional union actor when you have SAG-AFTRA membership. So don't join until you're ready to join. Being a part of the union is wonderful. You just want to make sure you join at the appropriate time. That's good for your career.
Oh yeah, certainly so. And and just like with moving, is one of those things that you want to make sure you have all your
Ducks in a row.
yeah, your ducks in a row, because if you don't, going back to what you said, you're really going to shoot yourself in the foot, and then afterwards you will regret it, and
Sure.
you'll have to face the consequences, and yeah, that will not be fun.
Yeah. I was pretty fortunate in that I had a job that I had in my hometown that I transferred out to California. It was just my little, part-time job. But it allowed me to work, 2, 3, sometimes 4 days a week, part-time to kind of, fill in the gap. It was the mortar in between the bricks while I continued to work and pursue my career.
Yeah, and you got to do what you got to do, and even though that you would rather be doing like your dream job, but hey, you got to support, your dreams somehow. So
this is very true, man. Very true.
Certainly, yeah. And yeah, from what I've heard, that's one of the reasons why that a lot of a lot of film is going to Atlanta, Georgia. It's because that Georgia is just so much cheaper than it is in Los Angeles. So
yeah, and I can't speak too much of it because I don't really have too much of the production, and expenditures, point of view. But obviously, it's less expensive there. The only other side is that when you're bringing in your production team, or I should say the people that are more above the line, the majority of them are being cast from here. So that's expensive because then you got to fly them across the country, put them up in a hotel. That state, and I would imagine Montana is either working on it or has, as does my home state, also an M state. I'm from Missouri. They now have a tax credit. So, the film incentive program, and that tax credit is very beneficial. So that's also something that's pulling, productions outside of LA. So we just need to get that back. You have all the infrastructure here in Los Angeles, both the studios and the core of the people, both, in front of and behind the camera. Whereas elsewhere, they got to find those people, build it up, and I would imagine the large majority of those folks are working as day players in front of the camera, or they are local working on whatever their negotiated rate is.
Yeah, and even here in Montana, like where I'm at, there were projects made here that had some notable actors, and then they would have to pay for their flight and hotel and even their rate in general. And
Sure.
it all adds up.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yeah, and and especially with considering like who your big name is.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Like with someone like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, they definitely are going to have a pretty big salary.
No doubt.
Certainly, yeah. And going back to inspiring people, from what I heard, Dwayne Johnson, before he got to where he's at now, I heard he had like what, $7 in his name.
Wow.
Yeah, and he went from that, to being where he's at now.
Yep. The other thing that I should definitely mention here for anyone that's looking to pursue this is just to remember that it is 100% a long game. This is not I'm going to get noticed immediately. This is a very long thing that you're putting yourself in for the long haul. So it can be challenging when you have inspiration and see your friends who have full-time jobs with benefits, and you're over here struggling, in your late 30s, working 5 part-time jobs so that you can give yourself the availability to be able to shoot auditions and take classes and, do all that stuff. That's the struggle of as an artist. But would you rather do that, or would you rather have consistency and then have your little, part-time job or your full-time job with benefits? That's the challenge. It's a long game, my friend. So remember that.
Oh, it is, yeah. And I mean, people who go into this business, they certainly should not just expect like, oh, I'm going to be a success overnight. Like, this is something that I've been doing since 2022, and
Mhm.
yeah, and I mean, it's definitely not an overnight thing. It's something that you have to be consistent about. Like, you have to put in that work, and ultimately, if you're not going to put in that work, well, and then don't be surprised when you don't get any results.
It's true.
Certainly, yeah, and yeah, but yeah, I mean, people definitely need to have realistic expectations of it. Like, is there the possibility that you might become the next Dwayne the Rock Johnson? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not saying that it won't happen, but it's just, it is also possible to be like a working actor too.
Yeah, that's the hope, man. Just to be consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I've even, had, people on this podcast like who got typecast doing like only horror films, only comedies, only whichever. I mean, it really depends on how they view it. Like there are some people who will embrace being typecast and some who will resent it. But I mean, ultimately, as long as it puts food on their table and as long as it pays their rent, that's all that really matters.
That's an absolute fact. Sometimes I feel that Hollywood has typecast me a little bit now that I embrace my union, or not my union, but my background in the military. And I use that experience to help me actually get jobs now, hence playing a paramedic on General Hospital, where I was a medic in the Air Force. And then I work as like a med tech advisor on different shows and have worked special ability on 911 and Lone Star and The Rookie. I just worked not too long ago on NCIS Origins. So using that skill set has helped me. That said, it's another way to continue to build up your resume in whatever
Yep.
city you live in. Do you know how to ride horses? Can you handle weapons? Are you familiar with weapons? Do you want to use different weapons? Is there a certain skill in the performing arts, dancing? Can you sing? What is that special skill that you have? Are you an EMT, a paramedic, a doctor, a nurse? Are you a lawyer? Are you a cop? So use those actual real life skills in your acting path for those of you that want to go down the performance track.
Yeah, yeah, like a really good example of that is David Howard Thornton. Before he was cast as Art the Clown in the Terrifier movies, he actually had experience being a mime.
Right.
And then ultimately that was one of the things that helped him get that role. And so yeah, and I mean ultimately, like just really look at what skills it is that you have.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And yeah, and so yeah, so and then in your own opinion, if you're gonna pursue like the industry of film,
Mm-hmm.
besides Los Angeles, besides Atlanta, in your own opinion, what do you think are some good places like for people to go to if they feel like that they do have to relocate?
Outside of LA and outside of New York,
Yeah,
outside of Atlanta.
yeah,
Hmm. I guess if you're gonna pick a place to move and it's outside of New York, LA, and Atlanta, consider something like Chicago. Those big, hence second city, because they're a big enough market where you're going to have commercial work. You're going to have theater for those, certainly in Chicago, certainly. Obviously, the comedy world is there. That's where the whole comedy world started, as we know it. And I would say maybe the next tier down from that would be something like New Mexico. I know a lot of people, that moved to New Mexico. But I can't speak from experience as far as those markets. I just know a lot of people that have gone there. So you might not be as consistently working. However, as I said earlier, technology is changing, so you can go anywhere and then send in your audition tapes and then get in, have them fly you in. Maybe consider working as a local if that's an option.
And from what I heard, uh, what really got it to have it be all online is that before you would have to go in person before COVID, but then ever
Yep.
since COVID hit, they were forced to do it all online. So then therefore they were forced to and then change all that. But it then gave people outside of LA the advantage, like pretty much meaning that it could be more financially feasible, meaning that they don't have to,
Rent the studios and all that.
Yeah, find an apartment, travel down there and travel back. I mean, it's just a lot easier.
Totally.
Like to just do it all online.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and also I also even heard like that. I believe Oregon also is even Oregon's also expanding upon like the film world too. So
no doubt, I would imagine a lot of people are. I mean, I don't know that side of it, so you'd probably Google, production set up in whatever state, or look up and see who has a tax credit currently. And of course, those always change, right? Because it's all based on legislation, and every state, oh, we're gonna help them, and then the next administration says, nope, we're not going to give them a tax, so it's up and down, up and down, up and down. My home state was the same way.
And I guess it just varies on what all their policies are and all that good stuff. So you were saying about how you've been typecast, or at least you feel like that you have. If you had to do any like complete opposite role, like say if you did like a horror movie or drama or romance or musical, what kind of complete opposite role would you want to do?
That's a great question, Eric. I don't feel that I've necessarily been typecast. However, I do work a lot as a medic or as military now, which is okay. It's because I know I kind of highlight that on my resume anyway. And now that I'm starting to get those roles, it's easier for production to hire me because they won't have to question whether or not I know these big words or how to do this skill that I already in real life know how to do. So that's kind of the benefit. Hold for a second while there's a landscaper.
Okay. Do what you got to do.
He's walking away. All right. So now if there was something that I had to do that was completely different, or opposite me, which is always fun, right? Getting to play something who I'm not. Like I tend to be, and I try to be truly a very kind, like I said, if the cat wakes up, then it's loud. So that was pretty loud. I try to be a very kind, caring, compassionate person. So anytime I get to play a dirtbag or someone who's nefarious, I find it very challenging. So something like that, maybe an evil person, or even someone that has no real drive in their life, is opposite me. Now, obviously, like if you're like, BJ, what's like your dream role? I mean, to be honest, anything that's going to get me consistent work is really where I'm trying to go. But I guess as far as TV is concerned, maybe a sitcom, or as far as hosting is concerned, maybe a fun educational travel show, where I get to host that. As far as film is concerned, doing something that's very meaty, very grounded, but yet opposite me would be unique. It's hard to give you specifics because I want to keep it kind of just in general, to do something different. I think everybody's in that same boat because you get tired of kind of always playing the same stuff. Like I love being the goofball. I love playing the ham in the office. I love playing, the young goofy dad. That's fine. Like it's fun, and I could do it. Do I want to challenge myself? Absolutely. Am I scared of it? Absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, change is something that a lot of people fear, but honestly, change actually can be exactly what we need.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They
And I
they they say if you don't try hard and make an effort, nothing in the world will succeed. And the scene begins, aka your life begins, the moment you step out of your comfort zone.
exactly, yeah. And yeah, and I mean, ultimately, if you don't step outside of your comfort zone, you could miss out on some opportunities that will forever change your life in a much, much better way.
That's true.
Certainly, yeah. And so, yeah, so yeah, as we about to wrap up, what is some of the best life advice that you can give my audience, and what's
Oh
also
Lord.
what's just some advice that you can give to anybody who wants to pursue their dream?
Life advice. I'm always going to advocate for following your heart. I know that's easier said than done because everyone's situation is different. Maybe you have to hustle and grind that job that you hate because you have to take care of yourself and your family or whatever. But I'm going to tell you to always follow your heart and do not settle for the things that are not making you happy. That's not to say you can't sit in it for a little bit while you get out of a hole or whatever you have going on, but follow your dreams because you don't want to look back and regret the opportunities that you didn't take or that you didn't try to go for. Um, and for those of you obviously that are going down the entertainment path, give yourself a mantra. What are you telling yourself? What's the positive mindset that you're telling yourself that you can do it and that you are doing it? What small steps can you start to take or that you are doing right now that you can continue to take that are leading you down the path? Did you sign up maybe for once a week a class? Are you in a scene study class? Are you in a acting for the camera class? Did you go to the community college and take a class? Are you in high school and get involved with your drama club? Does your school have an improv club? Are you going to see shows? You got to go do that research. So continue to build all of that up and work your way out and do what you can so that you set yourself up for success in whatever city you move to follow your dreams.
Certainly, yeah. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who will let failure get in the way and then ultimately to discourage them. But ultimately, failure is our greatest teacher in life because rather than having it set us back, instead use it as a way to continue your path. Like basically learn what it was that went wrong.
Right. And sometimes it's not that failure is not really something that went wrong. It was just a matter of a creative choice that went a different direction.
Yeah.
For us as actors, I don't say I got rejected. I auditioned and I wasn't right for that role, so they went with somebody else. Now, is there something I could do better? Is my self-tape game not strong? Am I not breaking down these characters as they should be? Did I not ask the proper questions of myself or of the casting director? And I'm not getting something. Is there something I can do? Is it a matter of putting a light in a different position? There's a lot of things, so you should always be constantly trying to improve. And if you're being complacent, well, that is a problem.
That it is, yeah. And I mean, ultimately, you just gotta examine your behavior, got to examine the circumstances, and yeah. And I mean, ultimately, just try to be as observant as you possibly can.
Totally.
But yeah, and so you mentioned mantras. Would you possibly have any mantras that you would want to offer to my audience?
I like to First of all, I try. This is easier said than done, okay? Because I totally get that. I like to try to do some gratitude, that way you don't become jaded and hopefully be a grounded, real, uh, positive, forward facing person. But try some gratitude in the morning. That would be great. Maybe while you're doing your 15-minute yoga morning wake up stretch, you focus on some gratitude. What's something that you're thankful for in that moment, or that might be coming forward through today, or that happened to you yesterday as you reflect back? And other than gratitude, I think just telling yourself, I can do this. You know, it goes back to the old SNL sketch. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, you just really just got to practice that self-kindness.
Yeah, right. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself patience. That's not to say that you should always be patient, you know, like
Certainly.
with yourself. You know, you can't always lean on that and use that as your crutch. But you know, don't bust your chops too much.
Certainly. So, yeah. So, my final question that I always ask, what are some things that you want to plug in?
As far as plugs that I want to share with people, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, well, you could follow me on social media. If you have questions, you want to reach out, see what I'm up to. Maybe I'm in your city doing some improv or sketch comedy. www.bjlang.com. At bjlang.com, it will take you to my link tree. You can see all of my different socials are on there: Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, you know, TikTok, all of that. And we can keep in touch if you're on LinkedIn. Some news articles are up there. My resumes and my reels are there. Coming forward for fellow veterans who are out there that might be checking this out. I travel quite a bit and teach improv, not only for the Air Force Wounded Warrior program, but out and around at different bases and whatnot. So just check and see if I'm going to be coming to your neck of the woods. And if you're interested in taking an improv comedy class at the Second City, perhaps consider having me as your teacher. So,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
But yeah, so anyways, yeah, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. And yeah, and I'll be sure to have a link like for people to give you a follow on Instagram and all forms of social media.
Sounds good. Eric, thanks so much. Super proud of you. And to all of your viewers out there, thank you for following your dreams to keep this inspiration alive.
Certainly, yeah, of course. And I really, truly appreciate you saying that. And I also want you to know that I'm also proud of you as well. All right. You have a fantastic day.
You too. We'll holler at you soon. See you, Eric. Talk to you.
I see you.
Bye.
Bye bye.